inside IC08, it's great to be here at our all new venue. I just feel that this room is going to bring so much more from us. It just like gives me that vibe. So it's great to see you all here, all lot of new faces tonight, and of course old as well, some old faces. First of all, thanks to Artem, our all-time co host. It's great to get you here, and a big thank you to Serena being here with us tonight, and looking forward to have a chat. So first of all, can you give us an intro about yourself?
Of course. So yeah, hi everyone, those who I have not met yet. So I'm Serena. I'm currently the Research and Insights Director at Right Formula. I'm also the department lead there. So before that, I was also working at Ipsos Mori, and before that, I was working at Ipsos Lebanon. So I'm originally from Lebanon, and yeah, excited to be here.
Amazing. Okay. And just for us to like set up the context, can you give us a short brief about Right Formula as well?
Yes, of course. So Right Formula is a sports marketing agency. So it's a 360 agency. We work with brands and rights holders to help meet their objectives through the power of sports, whether it's from finding the right sponsorship for them to helping them strategize and plan their marketing strategy, but also in terms of measuring and evaluating the impact and seeing how they can improve. So it's a bit of everything. And in terms of research and insights, we work around three main sectors, I would say. Market exploration and understanding. So understanding the landscape, identifying opportunities, threats, anything that meets what they're looking for in terms of the client. Audience analysis. So also we go a bit very much in depth in terms of psychographic, demographic, how best can we resonate with them. And finally, the big piece, measurement and evaluation. So around how are they doing, even internally, how can we improve, and etc. So yeah.
Okay, amazing. So today we're going to speak mainly about how to start an insights function and the whole team.
Yeah.
So let's start from the start.
Yeah.
So why did you apply for the job? So what like intrigued you? So you said you like worked at like Ipsos for 6 years, right?
Yes.
So
yes.
you applied for this job. So what was the reason? Like?
Yeah, I was headhunted actually, okay. But I was just sitting there, and then I received this recruiter invite, and they're telling me, we are planning on opening a department, and we're looking as initially as an RM, and then grow into the role. Are you excited about it? Is that something of interest? Yeah, of course. It's a challenge. So I think what really was interesting for me is the fact that it's a bit different to what I was doing before. It's a challenge. It's more focused around the commercial as well, a business element, and it's just building something from scratch. So did a couple of rounds of interviews, and then it worked out so far.
Amazing. So far. Okay. So the initial just the idea that you can have that challenge attracted you, right?
Yeah.
And because you did also a switch from a traditional market research, agency to this sports, agency as well. Was that a big change and shift as well?
Definitely, I would say from different elements. First is around the approach when it comes to research and insights. So it was working in a traditional market research agency. Everything is more systematic, traditional. The focus is a lot around the methodology, being rigorous. And then you go to the sports sector where everything's very fast, everything is global. There's a balance that you need to do between cost and efficiency. But also, I think it's a mindset where I had to a bit shift the large corporation thinking to more going around the autonomy, being autonomous and taking risks. So I think that was the biggest challenge for me is how can I switch this thinking and really start thinking more individually in terms of believing more in myself around that element. I think that was the biggest challenge at the beginning when I first joined into.
How did you navigate that? Because imagine most of us have worked at large businesses, going into
Yeah.
for smaller businesses, or one that is centralized around a specific vertical, like sports?
Yeah.
How do you even start? What does the first week, month look like?
Yeah, first weeks I was like, what am I doing? You know, like where am I heading? What should I do? I think first thing is I got the also opportunity to be within an environment that's very encouraging. I think that's key. So they were the team, the leadership team, and everyone was encouraging in terms of me taking my own steps. But first I had to understand everything. I started internally. So I started looking into, okay, for me to be able to support internally, I need to understand the function, understand their language. So what I've done is really walk in different, because we have different departments. We have PR, digital strategy, client servicing. So we have a bit of everything. So I wanted to have one-on-one with different heads of and the team members to understand what do they do and understand their language, but also how can I translate their objectives into data and insights. So what type of data would be useful for them? So that on its own was different than traditional research methods that we do. So that was from one element. And then I had to understand a bit more the sports sector. I wasn't an expert. So I had to do a lot of research myself. So trying to understand the industry, but also understanding the competition. How is the competition doing? Understand a bit more the competition, and also like a whole external analysis to see how can we position ourselves and how can we be different with the little resources that we have at the beginning, right? Because we can't go all in. So it was a bit of balancing data collection. I use my research skills to do data collection for myself as well, combine everything, understand, and then start the planning for the department and the strategy thinking, if you'd like. So going step by step, one step at a time.
Okay, and like, what was can you recall the perception? As you said, like you were trying to speak with different teams. What was the perception of them, like to you and to this like whole new thing?
Yeah, I think it was. I think it's the perception was. I think not all of them were quite not knowledgeable or knowing how can I help them. So I think there was this informative piece as well, which I was discovering at the same time. So, so I didn't know. I didn't look. I was like, "This is how I'm going to help you." I was trying to understand. There's a lot of trial and error that I had to do, and I think there was a lot of. I've done internal presentation to kind of say this is how we can help. So I think there was a big piece around the information, especially that it was a new department, and trying to kind of show them examples as well. So when I started with initial request, I remember with one of the departments, I'm like, okay, this might be helpful. What do you think? Do you need anything else? And one thing that, of course, I learned, and I'm talking with the crowd, I think it's also they resonate with me, is also the way data is displayed. I think coming from a traditional research company where everyone loves statistical significance, big graphs, you go there and like, wait, what do you mean? I'm like, okay, I'll give you the final story. So it's really about changing the language, speaking their language, but also showing the data and getting the main takeaways and insights, and just giving them the bread and butter, if I don't know if you know, I mean, the main take of it. So I think that was from an internal perspective. It's really bridging the gap.
Okay. So you tried to explain but also show a peaceful,
Yes.
like example of what can you bring to them.
Yes.
But at the same time, you try to learn from them as well.
100%.
And for yourself as well, because you needed to evolve in this like whole new role. So a lot of work on them, but a lot of work on yourself, right?
100%. I think that's and what I keep telling myself and internally, for us as researcher, for us to be able to give you with valuable insights, we need to understand to help you, right? And it was challenging because everyone uses different language, coupled with the sports language. So it was really trying to kind of being in the back end, observing, understanding, asking questions, and then come up with the data and insights that might help them the most. Yeah.
Did you manage to now intertwine the research process into the wider company process?
Yes, and it was a challenging one because sometimes it's a very fast industry, and sometimes we need to come up with the right marketing strategy implementation. So it's really also, this is where when I was doing internal analysis and seeing what type of tools can be used. And this is something that's a bit different from my previous experience. We, when we need to rely on secondary data analysis, collection analysis. So that's kind of, for me, when it comes to small, very short time frame, that's when, you know, I relied more on the secondary data to give them something quick and fast that works as well, of course. Yeah.
So I also know that you said like you needed to implement like internally research as well.
Yeah.
So for you, so how the right formula is going to stand out as well. But you also needed to provide insights for your clients as well, right?
Yes.
So was there a separate plan for those both things?
Yes, 100%. Because at the end of the day, you know, supporting internally is great, but also, you know, we need to make sure that, you know, there's money coming into the department to make it more sustainable, right? So yeah, I think in terms of when I did the external analysis and started shaping a bit in terms of what might work with the client, there was a lot of trial and error, but I think it's really mapping out in terms of where is the gap, what type of insights, because a lot of the clients, the brands that we work in, have their own research and insights department, right? So how can we add in terms of the layer of sports and what type of insights around the sports fans, around the target audience, around the measurements. So it's really taking it one step at a time, but also in terms of budgeting as well, because not every client has a big budget for research and insights. So it's about finding those small wins and scaling, improving our value and slowly scaling it further. Yeah.
And what was the first bite of success? You said there was a lot of trial and error at the start.
Yes.
Perhaps wasn't a model.
Yeah.
How did you discover that?
I think there was a lot of trial and error. I think it was from two elements. The first one is around the measurements. So I worked and I have experience in social listening. So I would say the first small win was an in-depth research element around the social listening. And the way it was done and how it set us apart is really to try to isolate the sponsorship and going more into the analytic sense. So this was the first piece of project that we won. And then as the client has gained more and more trust with us, this is when we start scaling more. And then later on, we've won more on market exploration projects. And also, I think once the way it was being done is that we win a project, right? But as we're building department, the team is growing. I need to set up a framework for the team as well. So I was winning a project, setting up the framework, and then making sure that I provide them with the right training, and then go think about the next thing. So it was a circular thing. But then we expanded more. So now one example we do social impact evaluation. We work with sports agencies and governing bodies. So yeah.
And what was the first reaction from the team internally when you provided the first piece of research for clients? How that felt?
I think that they were happy. They're very, very encouraging, because the thing is, they gave me the floor for me to think and see how things can be shaped. So I think it was a good first sign that, you know, the commercial thinking and, you know, we are heading places. So I would say they were quite happy and encouraging and thinking about the next thing.
So the first part you said was speaking a lot internally just to map out, and then you provided a couple of small wins with your clients, and then you provided the first piece of research, right?
Yes.
And what was done? So that was all around 3 months in, or more or less?
3 months in, I think. Yeah, after 3 months in, this is when we start winning projects externally as well. Yeah, and I would say, yeah, to add to it, I think it's what helped as well is building case studies. So it's always the first type of research projects, we win it, and then we have a case study to showcase, and then it goes from there. So I think that's so what my approach was, to go broad, different types of revenue streams, different type of research projects, and then win case study. And that way we have different. Yeah, exactly.
Okay.
Yeah.
So you chose 2-3 types of research. So what was the idea for you to pick and choose a type of research?
I think mainly it's about what is cost effective. I think this is the unfortunate thing that is really making sure that we give something that's cost effective but yet reliable and accurate. But also because the sports sector has a very much global outlook, so it's really how do you find the balance between, providing the accurate data that helps answer their business objectives while making sure we keep that global perspective, but also something that's very time consuming. So I would say these are the main elements that were initially taken into account, and that's why shaping the research approach was really based on that. And then later on, if we see that this is planning for the next year, that's when we can go a bit more sophisticated, I would say, go more with advanced primary data collection. So it was really finding this balance between what is needed now and what we can advise in the longer term.
How did the journey start? So you moved from Ipsos, and you have this, let's say you met with the stakeholders internally, you understand the department needs to make an ROI.
Yeah.
How do you decide on which partners you start working with or which types of research you focus on to spread yourself out to see what sticks? What was that thought process?
Internally or externally?
I guess client facing.
Client facing. It was really around where there's a bit of interest or opportunity there. So we have already existing clients. So seeing in terms of their whole approach and the work that they're doing with us, can I kind of include with them a small piece of research and insights that helps basically support them better while supporting internally? So that was one element. But also it was about seeing in terms of other clients, other brands, in terms of what they're doing, just to basically based on news and everything, and saying, okay, this is where we can tell them that we can help them with a market exploration piece. So I would say it was a case by case, but really seeing when there's any potential room to open a conversation based on a challenge that they have, or let's say also based on a need that has been expressed internally.
Okay, so I imagine there'll be existing clients and businesses. You'll identify a challenge, speaking with internal stakeholders.
Yes.
And then you'll probably bundle some small taster sessions in. Like, how about this? And from that, it'll grow.
Yeah. And the thing is also, like, I went a bit all in. We also participated in bids, which we won some of them, which has been great. So I'd say, although I was doing this, I was also trying to just any opportunity I find, just apply for it, go for it, because, you have, at the end of the day, even it's not coming from the company, but my pressure was that I need to make sure that we bring money to the business, we grow at a certain pace. So it was a bit of, trying everything while making sure that we customize as much as possible as well.
And did you find it ever to be quite, let's call it, challenging to fight with internal stakeholders for budget?
I would say yes. I think in general, because at the end of the day, every department brings value, right? And I think when sometimes faced with a limited client budget, I wouldn't say fighting, but I think there's discussions that happens in terms of identifying the priorities of the client and setting that accordingly. And I think there's always a challenge because the clients, as usual, wants everything. So it's a bit challenging sometimes to find the best scope of work. So what we do is really just to prioritize and say what would work the best, what would help the most the client meet their objectives. But also the team is very much aware of the importance of measurements as well. So we always add this layer. I would say it's more on the beginning audience insights piece that sometimes is a bit, it's not always in the mix depending on the client priorities and also timeframes. But it's definitely something.
Over time, you broaden your share of pie, and now I guess it's part of the proposals each time the business pitches.
Yes, unless if it's a 360 approach, and I think also, with time it was the importance of the measurements or even the insights, and kind of sharing that this also helps the department as well. So it's really, research is all about helping clients or internally, right? So once this has been more set in stone and also we're more aligned and there's more great ways of working together, I think that comes more naturally, if you'd like,
Of course. Okay. And but you said like a keyword, cost effective. Was that a challenge for you now to think in that way? Because you like came from, Ipsos, and I'm sure you didn't need to worry about that part before, and now you have this whole new thing where you need to think not only to provide a good research, but you need to find the best ratio of cost to value, right? So was this a whole new thing for you to experience?
Yeah, definitely. Like worst case back in the day is we have worked with Ipsos, we have a bit of negotiation. This is my budget, let's decrease. Coming there, and especially that the cost, the budgets and everything, it's something anyway under my kind of responsibility. So it was a bit challenging when talking with clients as well, and knowing the very little budget that they want and the big scope. And I'd say this is where it was more of the thinking around, let's rely on secondary data collection, or let's rely on social listening as an initial starting point, and finding the right balance. And if need to be, uh, giving them, even if it means a smaller scale, to answer some of their objectives by saying, if you want this is how much it's going to cost you. So I think it was really challenging, but what I've learned is really just one step at a time, giving them a small piece for them to understand, especially that some of them also, sometimes they think that, we have this, but I say, yeah, but wait till you see when it's more has a research touch to it. And that's when they appreciate it. But it's really about proving value, I would say, and then scaling upward. Because it was a big change for me, especially when, you can't go to the client and say, yeah, you want to activate, yeah, wait for a month till you get the data, by then the season is done, for example. So it was a challenge. Yeah.
And then the second phase was when you got your food in, when you delivered first projects, stuff like that. Then the next phase was to hire a team, right?
Yes.
So that was the next phase. How that like?
Yeah, it was interesting. I remember, yeah, we hired within the first 3 months. We hired the first research executive. I think it was interesting to find the good fit and the best fit, because you want someone who's able to juggle multiple work streams, multiple tasks, but also having the same, I would say, mindset, autonomous entrepreneurial mindset, because at the end of the day, you're as good as your team is, right? So I think it was crucial to make sure that we hired the right people, which we did. But I'd say, but also at the same time, setting up a framework for them, because as we were discovering what works and what doesn't work within the department, we also had to kind of set up a specific framework, like reporting, how it would look like. So it was a bit of, we win these projects, we set up a framework, then give it to them. And it was like a continuous training as well, and continuous improvement of what we're doing. I wouldn't say, I think it's always learn. I think nothing is perfect, right? So it's always growing and learning. But I would say this is when, yeah, we started this, hired this person, and then as we won more projects, we hired 2 others as well.
Okay. So 3 in total.
Yes, without me before now. Yeah.
I'm fascinated to understand your decision process for hiring that
Yeah.
first employee, because that's crucial within any business, right?
Yeah.
And from a personal experience, I think you can see the people here today, there's vast different research and insight experiences. So you may wear one hat. Did you try to find a clone, or did you try to find someone that complements your skill set?
I'd say both. I'd say I try to find complementary, but also people like who are a bit like me in the way of thinking, because as there's a specific vision and way of thinking that I need to bring it more to life, and I want someone who's very aligned with that, and ready to take on actions and everything. But on the other hand, I think the complementary, and that's how the team is more around someone who can think differently as well. And someone who can, I think all of them challenge me. I keep telling them challenge me, but I think it's having someone who can support me more on the operation level, but also in a way also making sure that I'm being continuously challenged and asked questions and focused on different things as well.
And once you, say, had that first week or month with them, did you teach them about your own current experience or what works best? How did you navigate the whole process? Because I think you said it was very early on.
It was a tricky one. I'm not gonna lie. I think I think the first thing I made sure to do, and I think it was key for me, is I need to learn everything myself as well. I can't just say I am, let's say, a director. No, I think it's important for me to do everything, to be able to train, because otherwise, if you don't do this, you're just giving superficial training and advice. So what I was doing is making sure that I understand everything from the ground up, if you'd like. Tell them this is the vision that I'm planning to take, and telling them to take on in terms of the reporting themselves. Also sharing with them the experience, and also making sure that it is a very fast-paced company. And we give responsibilities early on. So also to make sure that they're comfortable and knowledgeable that it's okay to not get things perfect the right time. And I think that's something it's really important to grow in the culture based on in the environment we work in. And it's about being adventurous, but also, tackling everything, juggling everything at once.
Nice. And just to last follow up, you mentioned that whole idea of constant improvement.
Yeah.
So was it the journey of first month, the delivery looks like this, and then you're happy with it, and then the next day you never want to see that again. Next month, let's do better. How did you navigate that?
Definitely. I think it's the way it was done is across two methods. So so what we do is we create initial reporting around one specific service lines, and then either we change tools, we change our reporting, and then slowly we add more and more insights and analytics into it. So the way it's rather coming from me, but also from the team themselves. So let's say if you have any new ideas, let us know, let's integrate that. But it's really the first step is to make sure we have the base. The client is happy. How can we improve? Even that was also from an internal perspective, especially around how can we focus more on telling the story and less on the data. It's something I had to learn moving to this company. It's really about focusing on the story itself rather than the data. So I would say, it's really about step by step, making sure we secure the first base. And then the more we scale it, the more we have systematic ways of working. So really building the more, support the RE who became an SRE gets from the RE, the more he has time to think as well and how to improve. And the more I have time to think about the longer term strategy. Yeah.
You said the first team member was within the first 3 months, right?
Sorry? Yeah.
Oh my God. So then you were supposed to figure out the whole research bit by yourself. You were supposed to introduce new types of research, and at the same time hire new research.
Yes. It was a bit, it was challenging, yeah.
It was a chicken and egg as well, right?
Exactly. And yeah, and I would say even finding the balance between short term and long term as well. So finding the short term, let's do the quick wins while having time to think about the longer term. What do we want? So I would really say I was focused on build the bottom of the pyramid and then go up and scale up. You cannot go very high achieving in the first. It's really about finding this balance. That was also a challenge for me.
I guess the bottom of the pyramid is revenue, right? And how did it stack up?
I would say revenue, but even I would say, if you'd like, in terms of what we're offering, I think I'm not saying anything what we're offering is great, but I think the longer term is also how can we integrate more AI and tech. It's something unavoidable. So I would say let's start building the reputation, building the base, building the value to the client, and then scale up in terms of how can we even more increase efficiency around the team. Are we using new data visualization tools? So I would say I would consider this more of
That's the challenge, right? I have a similar framework. If you imagine a matrix, you can, let's say, you can go up and the output is better, or you go to the right and the output is faster to deliver. Ultimately, the business wants to achieve that top right quadrant, that each deliverable is better and is delivered faster.
Yeah.
But that's almost impossible to do. So how did you navigate that in your school the first 6 months of work?
Yeah, I think it's 100%. I think the challenge is better also making sure that, coming from the foundation of a traditional research company, we want to make sure it's accurate as well. So I think the way it was really about making sure whatever we offer is achievable. Sometimes we had to work overtime, but what I was making sure in terms of is really to make sure that even though we have some short-term sacrifices, it's for the longer term, because over delivering and making sure that we're proving ourselves, because in certain areas it's something that is new for the client to know. Okay, we're working. Exactly. So I would say it was finding this balance. Are we taking on this project? How can we find the best efficient way? One can be in terms of division of tasks, making sure that whatever brief I'm giving to my team is clear, concise, but also making sure that the quality is continues to check. We check the quality, but also encouraging we go a bit above and beyond, because it is important at the end of the day. And what was very interesting is, as we are repeating those projects, that there's more efficiency because the team is trained, the team are more autonomous. So I think it's also just a matter of time as well. Yeah.
How often the framework for the research? How often do you tweak it? As you said, like you have a framework, then you teach your team.
Yeah.
So how often do you tweak it or not?
I think, yeah, I would say it's continuous. I know it's a vague answer, but I would say it's continuous. The more we find an idea to tweak it, we do it on the go. So if I have some time, I'm looking at, I'm saying, let's do this. But otherwise, the team themselves as well, they're like, oh, Serena, why don't we add this? I'm like, yeah, that's great, let's do it. So I would say continuous, to be honest. Yeah.
Imagine it's again back to that matrix. How do
you really love that matrix?
There's a plug to Picator somewhere there. Go matrices. How do you combat wanting to do better in terms of delivery output, and let's say surpassing your previous delivery to a client, versus, and I imagine this is when you mentioned you had to work extra hours, right? Navigating the business challenges. You have increasing pool of clients, maybe you're hiring, but because people are not in their roles just yet, and you need to go faster. So how did you find a way and model to survive those weeks and months?
I think it's really about, I had to find a balance. So whenever there's a new project and I had to make sure that I set up, train the team, that's when the focus was more around the projects. Whenever I had some free time, it was more about, let me think about the next steps. So I would say it was juggling, but at the same time knowing what to focus on and what not to focus on. So for example, sometimes when I first came, sometimes maybe I was focusing a lot on specific projects, proposals that were not going to convert. So as I learned more, I knew directly which has more chances of conversion versus others. So that's one thing, is really about focusing my energy, and the more in terms of the training my team and giving them more responsibilities. It's also understanding when I should let them be more autonomous, when I should be involved. And I think I would say it's balancing it out. And as time passed by, it just also became more and more, I would say, clearer for me from across all elements.
Okay. When did you know, like, okay, so the insights, the department is functioning. So this challenge I had, I successfully achieved it. This thing works. Was there a time like that, or still not?
I think there's always room for improvement, but I would say it was maybe mid last year. I think when we started, acquiring new.
So there it was like 6 months in or more.
Yes, I think this is when I wouldn't say it was like that's it, but I would say it was more showing that the efforts and the thinking I have put has started a bit come to fruition. I think that was midway through last year when we started winning more projects, when we started creating more harmony internally around different teams, but also seeing the team members also more specialized as well and focusing in their own thing. I would say within the first 6 months. But I think there's always room to grow and strategizing also long term. Yeah.
And thinking more into the future, what does success look like? Is it expanding the level of services you offer? Is it working or supporting more verticals?
I would say both. Yeah, I would say expanding in terms of the type of products we're offering, but also creating more sub-functions and specialization around the department. So that way, I want it to be like a bit organic, where the team members, based where naturally they're drawn to, they go there, and that way they, as they're here from the start, I want them to also see how they are growing into it as well. But also, yeah, diversifying and internally keep supporting internally as much as possible, because at the end of the day, it's about making sure that the company really gets the support it's needed as well. That's what success would look like.
Okay, and can you now? So, what would you say now, looking back, key things that were like crucial to make this journey of forming an insights department possible?
I would say first thing is make sure that you trust yourself and capabilities. I think it's really important. I never thought that this is something that I'm going to get the chance to work on, but also make sure that you break a bit the thinking that you've learned maybe from your previous experience, especially around traditional market research agencies. Sometimes it's okay to be a bit flexible and finding a way while making sure everything is accurate. But sometimes flexibility was something that I'm not used to in terms of that. Also, customizing proposals as much as possible, even if it means even speaking their own language. I think it's and finding the best approach, even if it means something small. It's going to happen. It's going to grow. Being patient. I think it's one step at a time. Small wins will lead to big wins. At the beginning, it was a bit, I want to do everything at once. It's not possible, especially if you want to add value. I would say don't forget the team members and empowering them, because I think it's something very important for me. I think this is taking them on the journey as well, because that's the only way that you build this culture that you're trying to live it yourself. So you need to make sure that it's spread out. What else I would say? I'm telling you, it's a lot of learning. A lot of learnings, yeah.
Maybe just one last one for me. Maybe advice to the guys here and on the stream. The things to avoid, maybe, that you've learned and you wouldn't want them to experience to go through.
Things to avoid, interesting. I would say to avoid reacting to any resistance that might happen, rather externally or internally, because it's just every person are in their own words. So it's about being patient and making sure that it just harmony will be created. I would say avoid getting lost sometimes in small details in case there's one mistake that happened. I think always see the bigger picture, because this will lead to do better the next time. And yeah, avoid taking things personally as well.
Okay, before we switch to Q&A, one last from me. So was an Ipsos and that like traditional market research agency, was that a perfect background to take a challenge like this, because it like gave you that wide approach to know which kind of research can you apply and stuff like that, because you needed to wear so many hats. So was the market research agency background a great thing for you to have?
I think, yeah, definitely, because I got the chance to work Ipsos around different projects. So whether it's brand equity, social listening, concept test, and all of these different quantitative and also qualitative. So I think it was really a good background for me to lay out all of the different projects that are possible. and based on my learning in the sports industry, try to say, okay, how can we be innovative as well in our offering? And I think it's complementary to my experience at Right Formula, which is more around the innovative, thinking differently type of thing. So I think it was a good mix, because the base is important. That's what, we try to separate as much as we can with Right Formula, is that we care about the data validity as well, but we are innovative in our thinking approach.
Right.
Yeah.
Amazing. Good. Okay, we can turn to the Q&A. If someone has questions, so now is the time to ask. Okay, let's start. Here we go.
So, how has the appetite of your bosses grown in terms of what they expect from the team now? So, I guess it started with, well, set up something, get it up and running. And what's the brief now?
In terms of my team, or in terms of the company?
Team, yeah, function,
Yeah, their expectations. Their expectations, I think now it's, we're setting up how can we grow and how can we specialize as well. So I would say looking into their lens in terms of what would be helpful for them longer term. So the expectations is, okay, we are setting up the frameworks, we are setting up the basic. What next? Where is my specialization? So I would say that is one element, but also making them also more into the commercial world, into the proposal writing. So like they're now set up in terms of the project management. So now how can we include them into strategy setting? So really helping them grow with the department as well.
Anyone else?
Yeah, I just wondered if you could give us a flavour of the type of profile of clients that you work with, so we can use context.
Yes, of course. So we work around different brands, like whether it's B2B or B2C. We work with Hilton, IWC. We also work with governing bodies and sports agencies like UK Sport. So I would say it's mostly brands, but we also work with rights holders as well. So let's say Formula One and yes, all of the sports rights holders.
So as a follow-up, what's been the most rewarding experience in terms of profile? Would that be sports rights holders or?
I would say for me, it was working with a sports agency that provides. It was around the social impact projects. So the client we worked in, they provide funding across major events to make sure that they do a lot of like social impact programs. For me, it was a bit different because it was more on the social element, and the more as we were interviewing beneficiaries and understanding more, I think it bit touched the social, and it more resonated with me because it's less about profits and about economic impact. It's more about how is this impacting in terms of society, and it was more on a personal level that I really liked it because it's a bit different, but it's also it has this authentic touch to it. Yeah.
Do we have any more
No, I was going to ask, I actually have quite a few questions. First one is, you mentioned that there's a quality checking process with all of the research outlets that you guys have. Do you actually have like a framework for that, or like what do you necessarily look for at that stage, especially if you're pressed for time? What is like the main thing you look for?
When it comes to candidates?
No, like in terms of deliveries, project deliveries.
What are the main checklists that we want to? Yeah, I think it's one. Does it answer the first thing? Does it answer the client objectives and questions? Two, does it use reliable and accurate data? Three, is it simple enough and doesn't include a lot of? Is it data? Is it appealing, or does it have a lot of data? And four, also, does it also conclude any conclusive recommendations as well? And it's not only just insights. So I would say this is, and was it delivered on time? But that's as I think everyone struggles. Yeah.
Okay, and you obviously come from a market research background, and you're used to using very different approaches to data. Do you have like a preferred data method that you use, or is it very much dependent?
Yeah, I think it depends on case by case. But me personally, I really like social listening and analytics. I think if it's used right, we can't escape the digital world and online social media, online conversations. So I think when used right and when we have enough data, I think it can derive a lot of useful insights. But also I like brand equity in general. It's more on the Ipsos side, but I think it's quite interesting, the whole brand funnel and brand equity.
Do you connect the social listening data to other data sources?
Yes. So the way we do it is through other data sources, but also through when it comes to digital activation. So whenever we have digital campaigns, so we try to understand what was done and how does it reflect in terms of social listening data.
So it's an object study itself.
Yes, 100%.
Any other questions?
You mentioned many examples where you've shown you've adapted to whatever the business was throwing at you in terms of do this kind of research, this kind of research, and how are you adapting at the moment with AI and the possibilities of using it to craft different types of research, and where do you see this going?
Yeah, very interesting question. I think at the moment the focus was really more around delivering in terms of traditional type of way. You feel like I see it longer term. I see AI that's going to be more taking the route even when it comes to data collection and basic data reporting. So I see AI being used as a backbone, but us focusing more on the insights part of it, on the recommendation and advisory than anything else. And I see us more utilizing this in the future once we make sure that we got a grip of everything and we're comfortable in using AI, I would say.
Any more questions? I think we still have time for one more. Or if not,
But one more. Working with sports marketing, etc. Are you a sports fanatic or not?
I would say in the making. Sports fanatic in the making, I would say.
Tom just said that he is planning to like turn a pro next year, right?
We need to speak later.
Definitely.
So try to do someone didn't cook you.
This is how it started. This is how it started.
But okay, good. If that is that, thanks a lot for doing this.
Thank you.
It was amazing. So,
Thank you.
Yeah, thanks so much for that.
Thank you all. Thank you.